I'm so excited for part 2 of Tim Fitzpatrick. If you missed it, please go check out part 1, where we talked about the fundamentals of marketing. Before you get into part 2 of the fundamentals, you're going to learn so much that's going to be applicable to all areas of life. So make sure that you like, subscribe, and share as we get into a conversation with Tim Fitzpatrick.
Welcome to Advance with Mike Acker, the podcast designed to help entrepreneurs, business leaders, and professionals alike break through barriers by improving their practical leadership skills and increasing confidence in speaking. Your host is a best-selling author, executive coach, and founder of the Advance Public Speaking School and Advantage Publishing Group, two companies dedicated to providing an edge for leaders. Find out more about Mike at mikeacker.com. Now here's your host, Mike Acker.
All right, we're back with Tim Fitzpatrick. And part 1, we talked about the target audience and then mapping out the customer journey. That's all part of the fundamentals of marketing. I have Tim back with me this week from Rialto Marketing, and he's got some great resources that he's offering to people for free. The link will be in the show notes as well down below on the YouTube channel. But Tim, it's great to have you back for part 2.
Thanks for having me back, Mike. Looking forward to picking up where we left off.
Absolutely. So we talked about that target audience, and that was a great conversation. And then you just gave some incredible nuggets and really fast, actually, on the map of the journey. I know there's so much more. Let's get into part 2 of the fundamentals of marketing. So talk to us a little bit about what these are, little short descriptions of them, and then we can begin to unpack them.
Absolutely. So last time we talked about target market, right? Understanding who you really want to serve. Once you understand who you're going to serve and how you're going to serve those people, then you can start to work on your messaging, right? Which is what you say to those people. How do you communicate what you do and the value you offer? And how do you do that in such a way that it grabs their attention and their interest and gets them to take action? You cannot do that until you first understand who you intend to work with, and you understand them better than they understand themselves. When you can speak their language, then you're ready to create messaging that's going to attract those people. And then the third element in the fundamentals is your plan. What is your plan to get that message in front of those people? When you have those 3 things in place, you have the foundation that you can build the rest of your marketing house from. So many people, though, skip them. Right? They want to get tactical immediately. I got to have a website. I got to have a YouTube channel. I need to be on Facebook. And they're just going about it haphazardly, throwing spaghetti up against a wall, hoping that it's going to stick. And you're never going to get traction that way. You're going to waste time. You're going to waste money. The fundamentals in any discipline, you have to have them if you want to be successful. Right? Michael Jordan, I love this quote from Michael Jordan. He said, get the fundamentals down and the level of everything you do will rise.
Oh, man,
that's why the marketing fundamentals are so important. Like, he made it look easy to shoot free throws, right? It's like he just made them all the time. But what we didn't see was the fact that he shot thousands upon thousands upon thousands of those over, who knows? He could have even gotten into the millions. I have no idea. But he did it over and over again, and he made it look easy because of that. The fundamentals in any discipline will allow what you choose to do after that point to work so much better, right? It's not so much the tactics. There's so many marketing tactics. The tactics, right. Any tactic can work, but it's what's behind the tactic, those fundamentals that really drive the results you see from that tactic. So that's why the fundamentals are so important. And I know we want to get into messaging, right?
Right. I love this idea that messaging is one of the fundamentals. I think this one resonated with me more because what I do so much of is communication coaching. And I actually have a book called Write to Speak, and it's all about how to write, how to message to your audience a talk. But where does it start? It starts with exactly what we talked about in part 1 of this work with you here, which is know your audience. And so I do this deep dive into who are you talking to? When I go do a keynote for somebody, I work with the event organizer and I ask, what's their education level? What's their background? Even, and not trying to be generalization or stereotypical, but even what are some of the ethnic groups that are making up the audience? I want to know some of the culture that's behind there, because understanding that target audience, understanding the audience helps me message. So don't dive into this. If you haven't watched the first one, make sure you go back and watch the first one so you understand what Tim was saying about target audience and knowing who you're doing the talk to, the messaging for, the marketing plan for. But with that said, with that little preamble and with that little connection to public speaking, how do you prepare the right type of messaging? What is it? What goes into having this fundamental of messaging in our marketing plan?
So what I'm about to share, I did not come up with. We use a storytelling framework when we create marketing messaging, and the framework that we use is a slightly modified version of StoryBrand, which is a company that was founded by Donald Miller, and they really popularized this concept of using story to craft your messaging. And look, he didn't even look. Stories have been around for thousands of years, right?
Beginning of humanity.
Yeah, exactly. Stories are engaging. They bring people in, and even storytelling in marketing has been around for years. I just think StoryBrand has done a really good job of making it simple for the masses to understand and adopt. And when it was introduced to me, I was like, man, dude, this is so cool. I love this. I get it. And at this point, I mean, there's thousands of businesses that have used this framework. So rest assured, it works. But the reason we use storytelling is because it helps you focus your message, not on you. Too many businesses talk about themselves and our customers don't care. They only care about what we can do for them. How can we help them solve the problem they have and get from where they are to where they want to be? That's what they care about. When you use storytelling, it helps you focus on how you can really help your customers survive and thrive, right? That's what we need to talk about, not ourselves. The other thing storytelling does is it enables us to communicate very clearly what we do. What do we have to offer? Too many of us make it difficult to understand what the hell we do, and confused people don't buy, right? Our attention spans are so short, like 5 to 8 seconds, something like that. If I land on your website and the first message that I see there is making me go, what do these people do? I am not going to take my time to figure it out. I'm going to go back to the search results and click on somebody else's website to see if I get that, right? We're very impatient. So our marketing message has to be clear, not clever, and get people to go, what does he mean, or what does she mean when they're saying that, right?
I got to pause you right there, because this "you're not clever" thing is so huge. As I work with leaders and people who are doing speaking, really, this is a huge thing I come to again and again. Don't jump to creativity or humor or anything. Just be clear. The way that I say this, and it's so applicable here, is understand it like a professor, but teach it like a kindergarten teacher.
Yeah. Yes.
You gotta understand the concepts, understand and I think that's applicable right here. Understand your business, from really know what you do, but then just clearly, the messaging is so clear, and the story it's got to be in there so clear. So I just want to highlight, underline, bold, emphasize what you just say. Be clear, not clever. There's room for cleverness, I'm sure, later on, as there is for creativity in speeches. But man, let's just grab a hold of that. Everybody should write that down. Be clear, not clever. All right, back to you. That's my soapbox.
So no, it's all good. I obviously totally agree with that. So let's at a high level review what this framework looks like. Okay, if for anybody that's familiar with the hero's journey, this is a slightly modified version of the hero's journey, right? Every story, there's a hero or a main character. Okay, they have a problem. They don't know what to do, right? They're stuck. Most heroes are they're fairly weak characters in the beginning, because they're like, dude, I got a problem. I have no idea what the hell to do, man. How am I going to get to where I want to be? Well, they need a guide, and that guide knows exactly what the hero needs to do, because they were used to be in their shoes. So that guide gives the hero a plan that calls them to action so that they can avoid failure and reach success. Okay. So like, think about it like this. Are you familiar with the original Point Break with Keanu Reeves? I'm probably dating myself.
No,
with this.
I remember it, but that was back when I didn't like Keanu Reeves. That was like the 90s when I was like, ah, man, he's just a wrong guy.
Yeah, I you know what? For a while, I had kind of a man crush on Keanu Reeves. So in the early 90s, the original Point Break, he is a green FBI agent. Okay. The problem that he's facing is they're a band of bank robbers called the ex-presidents that are robbing banks in Southern California. The guide is his partner, Gary Busey. He's a seasoned FBI agent. He's been there. He's done that. And he says, look, I believe that the ex-presidents are surfers. So the plan here is you need to learn how to surf so that you can, infiltrate this community, get to know these guys, and we're going to catch these guys. So the call to action is go learn how to surf so that we can avoid failure, which is they get away, and we reach success, which is we catch them. Okay. And that's exactly what happens. So think about one of your favorite movies, especially action movies, really follow this to a T. I guarantee you start thinking about that, you're going to start plugging in these elements and go, oh yeah, I get it. Okay, cool. So now that we all understand that, now we take that same framework and we invite our customers into a story where they are the hero and your business is the guide. Our customers are not looking for another hero. Remember, the hero has no idea how to solve the damn problem. So the guide does. So that's why we want to position you as the guide. And we do that because by showing that you have empathy and authority. Those are two characteristics of a guide. So you communicate to your prospects and your clients, hey, I understand exactly what it's like to battle this, right? I used to be there. I know how it's like to do that. It's no place that we want anybody to be, right? But I know exactly what you need to do. You need to take these steps.
Yeah.
And when you take these steps that I took myself, here's where you're going to go. Right. So that's all we're doing when we use this framework. And when you go through this process, you now have a playbook. I call it a playbook. StoryBrand calls it a brand script. But you have a playbook you can go back to so that when you're going to create a message, whether it's in social media or email, or it's a blog post, or it's a workshop that you're going to do, you can sprinkle in bits and pieces of your message throughout that so that it's consistent. It's clear. You're not reinventing the wheel each and every time. You're going back to that playbook because your message has to be consistent and it has to be clear. If every time somebody sees me and they hear me talking about different stuff, my message is never going to resonate. Because in marketing, we talk about the marketing rule of 7. They have to see your brand, your message at least 7 times before it starts to resonate. Yeah. Man, if they see me saying 7 different things, it's never gonna hit.
So good.
That's how we use it.
Glancing over at some of the notes I took from our first one, and it's really interesting because when you know the target audience, then you can know what. So that's the hero. When you know the target audience and when you know the hero, then you, as your business, as the guide, can know how to serve that person. It's interesting because I've known some of this in some different capacities, but I've seen it through a different lens, even as we talk, and thinking about then the audience as they're talking about it, going, okay, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to start this. And how can I then be the guide? How can I become the guide for the heroes? Now, here's the thing that's coming to my mind. One of the pushbacks I think probably was going to come up isn't this manipulation? How do you answer that question?
No, I don't think it's manipulation at all. I think you're simply communicating to people in a way that resonates with them. You are speaking their language. When they hear you, they see or hear your message or read your message, and they go, oh my gosh, Mike gets me. He's talking to me. That's what we want to have happen. It's not smoke and mirrors. And look, there are plenty of people in marketing that do smoke and mirror stuff, right? They overpromise and underdeliver. That's not what I'm suggesting at all. All I'm saying is
you don't want it to be Emily Holmes.
Yeah.
Fairness.
Yeah. What you need to do is when you understand your customers and you can speak in their language, the way they speak about it, right? The way I speak about marketing is not how my ideal customers talk, right? If I talk at a freaking 10, where I start talking about, SEO or whatever it may be, that's not what they're talking about.
Sure.
What they're talking about is, man, nobody's coming to my website. Nobody's finding my website, right? That's the distinction. I need to understand how they communicate it so I can communicate the way they need to be communicated to. Because if I speak in a way that's not good, that doesn't make sense to them, it's never going to resonate. So we're not manipulating people. We're just very clearly communicating that we understand the problem they have and that we know exactly what they need to do to solve it. And when they do that, they're going to avoid it continuing to experience these problems. And we need to paint the picture of what the result looks like. Okay. Because you know what, when it comes down to it, I'm in a mastermind group right now that is run by a guy by the name of Dov Gordon. And one of the things he said, look, all people really care about is they have a problem that they have and don't want, or they have a result that they want and don't have. It's one or both of those things. And when we communicate to them, that's what we need to focus on and communicate. If we can do that and we can communicate it in such a way that it is in their words and not our own, you're onto something.
That's great. By the way, Dove was actually on this.
Was he really?
Back in maybe February or March. So if people
Okay.
are finding out more about Dove, go ahead and just put in DOV and you'll be able to find it there on my channel. And he talks about alchemy networks, and it's a very interesting talk. So
that's really Dove is that is so funny. What a small world. I love how he thinks. He really breaks things down into very simple forms. Yeah. And he has a very canny ability to ask the right probing questions to get to the answer that you are looking for. So
yeah, absolutely. So here's what's so interesting about that answer. It's the same thing about manipulation and with coaching. I always tell people this, that if you are trying to convince someone to do something for your benefit and you're talking them into it, that's manipulation. But if you're talking people into doing something for their benefit, then that's mentoring.
Yeah. You're putting it out there. You're communicating it very clearly what you can do. And, it's like, if that resonates with those people and they're motivated enough to then take that next step, then cool, let's continue this conversation. But honestly, I don't think you can sell anybody anything, right? You can't force anybody to do anything. You just need to let them know that, hey, if you have this problem, I can help you solve it. And if you're motivated to do that, right? Anytime I have tried to push somebody to that next level, and for whatever reason they made that choice, they were never good clients. Right. Never. The motivation to change or eliminate that problem needs to be an 8, 9, or a 10.
Yeah.
If it's a 5 and you push them so hard to take the next step and they just caved, they're not going to get great results. They're not going to be happy, and neither are you.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. So we've gone through target, and then we even went through the customer map last time as part of the target. And then now we've talked about messaging and really this story brand, the hero's journey that works in books. It works for small businesses. It works, by the way, this is what some big companies are doing, right? So huge companies are doing this as well, and they're doing very well. But just because you're not huge, maybe you're starting out, doesn't mean you can't do that. So grab a hold of the ideas here, dive into it. But Tim has also put some resources out there for this audience, for Advanced with Mike Acker audience. So I'll put the link in the show notes, but it's going to be the rialtomarketing.com/advanced with Mike Acker or not dash at the end. So, okay, take us home with how then do we make this happen? We got the target. I'm going to reach these people.
Yeah.
For me, these are upper level professionals or professionals who are needing a breakthrough to get past a barrier, whether it's a leadership or communication barrier. So typically the people that I'm working with have a good education or a good amount of training or whatever it might be, and they're going to break through. So I got that. That's my audience. I got my messaging. I have a hero's journey as well. Everybody listening, say they've paused it at this point in time. They have those two elements. Now, what do we do from here? Where do we go from here?
So now you need to create your plan. What's your plan to get that message in front of those people? So many people don't have a plan, right? They're very haphazard with their marketing. They're trying this, they're trying that. The problem is when you don't have a plan, it's so easy to get distracted. And a lot of times when people don't have a plan, they don't know what to measure. So they're doing all these things and they're not quite sure what the hell's working and what's not. Planning in any part of your business, whether we're talking about marketing or operations or finance, you have to have a plan. Planning is the key to being effective. And there is no perfect plan. So get that off your back. You got to put a plan together. You're better off starting with a plan, even if it's a bad plan, than no plan at all. Here's how I look at marketing planning: 90-day sprints. Okay. 1 year is too long. And a 1-year plan becomes overly complicated. And when things are complicated, we end up implementing and executing very poorly in most cases. 90 days is long enough to see things start to gain traction, but it's short enough where it keeps things simple and you can make course corrections and adjustments and then just keep wash, rinse, and repeat every 90 days. That's why I look at 90 days. Here's a 6-step 90-day marketing plan. And the template for this is in the link that Mike mentioned. So first part of this template is your target market. At a minimum, I want a paragraph for each of your 1 to 3 ideal clients. Who are they, right? I just want it to be top of mind who you intend to attract and work with. 2 is your goal. It needs to be specific. It needs to be measurable. It's going to be time bound because this is a 90-day plan. So this might be, we intend to have, 8 new clients in the next 90 days. Okay. The one thing I want to stress here is a goal like this. I call it an outcome-based goal. Some people call it different things, but with an outcome-based goal, there are a lot of things beyond your control. That's okay. But I like to tell people, don't get too attached to an outcome-based goal, because if you get really attached to it and things happen beyond your control, it tends to derail people a little bit. So I think it's important to know where you intend to go, where you're headed, but don't get so attached to it that it's not motivating if you don't reach it. 3rd step, what's your budget and what are your resources? This gives us an idea of what we have to work with. If it's just me and I have $500 a month to invest in my marketing and I've got 4 hours a week, well, I can only bite off so much in my plan. But if I got $20,000 a month and a team of 5 people, well, then I can bite off a whole lot more in my plan. So we have to have an idea of what we have to work with. That's what we're doing here. The other thing that's important in this step, this 3rd step, is to understand capability as well. Just because you have people on your team that have time to invest in your marketing, if they don't have the capability to do certain things you want them to do, well, then you're not putting the right people in the right seat. So you either need to put them in a different seat or you need to level up their skills so that they can do it. Okay. But you have to know what you have to work with. Okay. 4th step, what's my current plan? And when I say that, Mike, I understand a lot of people may not have a current plan. That's okay. All we're doing in this step is getting a baseline of where we're starting from. It's a reference point. It's just like my GPS. My GPS cannot tell me how to get to Denver International Airport until I say, hey, I'm starting from Inglewood or I'm starting from Denver. We have to get a baseline. You cannot outline a plan to help you get to where you want to be until you know where you're starting from. So that's what we're doing in this step. And all I want you to do is write down what you have put in place and continue to do from a marketing standpoint. Just write it down. In the 5th, did you want to jump in there?
I'd say that writing it down right there, as people are doing it. I mean, at this point in time, if people have checked out the first one and now they're on to the second part of this, sometimes there's a lot of ideas going on in our mind. And yet, if we haven't written it down, there's this fascinating study that was done in Harvard about people who write down their goals. And this is talking about life goals. The probability of successfully making those goals a reality is 1,000 times higher. It's a fascinating study. And I think it's very relevant to what you're saying right here. It's write down the goals, make sure you map it all out there so that you have this not just in your mind or on a scratch of paper, but use the template that Tim has provided us at the link that's in the show notes or down below, and use it to go through and write down what Tim's talking about. Okay, take us into the next one.
Absolutely. So the fifth step, that's your next 90-day sprint. What am I going to focus on in the next 90 days with my marketing? And where you start and what you focus on is going to depend on where your baseline is. One of the most common questions I get is, okay, this is great. This is simple. I get this, but how do I know where to start? I'm going to talk about two things that are going to help your audience. One, in the link with the resources for the show, there is a document in there called the Marketing Evolution Index Checklist. And it looks at various marketing channels in phases, 3 phases. And it says, hey, at phase 1, here's what you should have in place for your website. In phase 2, here's what you should have. So it gives you a checklist that you can start to work through to identify, hey, what do I have in place? And what do I not have in place? And where do I need to fill the gaps? Okay, so that's a really helpful tool. But the second thing I will tell you, the easiest place for most people to start, one, if you do not understand your target market and have good messaging, you have to start there. Okay. If you skip that, you are going to waste time and you are going to waste money, and you're going to come back to it at some point. So just believe me. Okay. Start there. Second, your website. If your website is not good, it doesn't have good messaging, it doesn't have a clear path that you're leading people down to get them to where you want them to go, you need to fix your website. Because even if you're 100% referral business, people are going to your website to check you out. And if your website looks like it's from 1995, they are not calling you and you're losing out on referral business. Okay. So that's second. Third, the lowest hanging fruit, right? Everybody wants, hey, how do I get quick results? The easiest place to get quick results is to look at what's already working. If you've been in business for a while, you have something that you're doing that is already working. In your first 90-day plan, I want you to look at that and start at the end and work your way backwards to see, are there gaps that are impeding our progress, right? Where that if we filled those gaps, we could start to get better results. And are there ways that we can scale this and do more of this to get even better results? Because if you can make those slight tweaks and it's already working, you're going to see much more immediate results and impacts in your business there. Once you've really nailed that, then you can start to expand out into other channels and other tactics. So those are 2 ways that you can start to hone in on what to focus on for the next 90 days.
This is fantastic. There's so much good here. I think people are going to need to pause this. And we will definitely use the link to that's going to be helpful so that you can not have to just keep all this in your mind. But this is great. Think about how to expand like a lot of people I work with, medical professionals, dentists, doctors, etc. Or you're an entrepreneur, you're starting something up, or you're getting your book out there. Think about this in terms of your book, your platform, or your business. Grab a hold of your marketing people and have them just run through this. They probably know a lot of this, but it's always good to give this as a source to them. So this is just encouragement for people to share this with others in your circle, because there's a lot here that's going to help you get your message out there further and more. All right. Look for you just because I think it's so valuable.
No, man, that's all good. I appreciate that. And we have one last step in your 90-day plan, which is your metrics. The metrics are what you're going to measure. And when you measure the right metrics, it helps you understand whether the actions you're taking are working or not. And then from there, you can make informed decisions about the changes and the course corrections you need to make. So many people don't know whether their marketing is working because they're not tracking any metrics. When we look at metrics, look, I was a math major, so I can dig into the weeds on this stuff. There are so many metrics in marketing that don't mean a damn thing. I don't care how many people are going to your website. I don't care how many people are on your email list. I don't care how many people are following you on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. If you are not generating leads and generating customers, then none of that stuff freaking matters, right? So those are vanity metrics. If you are not tracking metrics, I want to give you 3 metrics that you can start tracking. You can certainly get more advanced, but start with these 3. One is how many leads are you generating each month? A lot of people don't even know how many leads they're generating. Important thing for you to know is how do you define a lead? Okay, for my business, somebody that signs up for our email list is not a lead. They haven't raised their hand and said, hey, I'm interested in chatting with you. So somebody becomes a lead for my business when they schedule a free consult. Okay, that's my determining factor. You need to figure out what that determining factor is for your business so that you can clearly say, yep, that's a lead, or no, it's not. But once you have that determining factor, now you can start to track how many leads you generate each month. The second metric is lead source. Where are your leads coming from? Mike, we don't need to overcomplicate this. Just ask. How did you hear about us? Great. Make a note of it, and now you know where those leads came from, okay? I keep this track of this on a spreadsheet. There's plenty of businesses that keep track of this stuff on a spreadsheet. Leads, where did the lead source come from? When I know the lead source, that's telling me what channels and what activities are actually working and which ones are not.
Yeah, it tells you where to save money too, because you get that, hey, I'm getting no leads for my book from those places. I'm getting no leads for my practice from this.
Yes.
Getting no leads. I've done that, where you just assume that it's bringing in something and then nothing at all. So, yeah.
So now when you have that information, now you can make an informed decision. We need to double down on this. Maybe we need to pull back on this activity, right? That third metric is how many leads are converting to customers. Super important. Does it take me 10 leads to get a customer? Does it take me 5? Whatever that number is, now that you know it, you can start to work on how can I improve this, right? But you also know, and when you get it, so with these 3 metrics, all you need are a few other metrics, and you can actually work your way backwards so that if you know, my goal is $10 million in revenue. If you have the right metrics, you can work your way back and go, you know what, if we want to do $10 million in revenue, we need to generate this many leads.
Yeah.
And now you can start creating a plan of, okay, how are we going to generate that many leads? Right. But if you don't track the metrics, you can't do it. You have no idea. So start with those 3 metrics, then you can expand out from there. So it's leads, lead source, and how many leads are converting to customers.
Wow. This has been so great, Tim. Not only this part, but the first part and the whole marketing fundamentals. And again, I just stress to people listening, to all the audience there, thank you for listening. This is so applicable to not just you having a product or having a service that you have, but it's so relevant to marketing yourself and understanding even what value you have. This is even in a little bit different, put some tweaks on it, applicable for you finding the right job. So this is a huge part of advancing through your leadership and communication. And so I'm so glad that we've had you on here, Tim. Now, bring it home for us. Talk to us about where people can get a hold of you once again, and just any closing thoughts that you have for our audience here.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mike. So I guess last minute thoughts. Don't skip the fundamentals. I mean, obviously I'm passionate about it. It's really what we focus on, but gosh, even if you don't even reach out to me, just take this information and make sure you've got the fundamentals in place. So many people skip them, and it ends up coming back to bite them at some point or another. You can succeed in spite of skipping the fundamentals. That doesn't mean that you should do it. And I guarantee you will hit a ceiling at some point that you can't break through until you get the fundamentals in place and aligned. So don't skip them. Best place to learn more about us is at Rialto Marketing, which is RIALTO marketing.com. We've mentioned the free resources link multiple times. Go there. If you want to, all our social channels, everything are on our website. We've got a great podcast. We put out tons of content to help business owners grow, not just from a marketing standpoint, but anything having to do with running a business. If you want to connect with me personally, the best place is LinkedIn. And it's linkedin.com/in/Tim P as in Paul Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, that's great. Tim, thank you so much for being on the program. Really appreciate it. Really love the investment. I took down some notes myself just as I was going through this as well. Yeah, just put it on mute so that people wouldn't hear all the clickety clack because it's right next to the microphone. But this is fantastic. So thanks for sharing your understanding, your knowledge, your history with us. And I'd love for the audience to check that out and see what you do. I was on your podcast, and so It was great to be on there, and people can check that out as well. A different type of conversation. And to all of our audience, thank you. We wouldn't have a podcast, we wouldn't have a show without you. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for liking, sharing, and really being a part of this community. And until next time, this is Mike with Advance.
Thanks for listening to Advance with Mike Acker, a podcast designed to provide an edge for leaders through improving practical leadership skills and increasing confidence in speaking. Mike is a best-selling author and business owner who has helped many leaders increase their skills and their confidence, propelling them to new heights in their personal and professional endeavors. Join an incredible group of professionals taking the steps to become better leaders at connect.stepstoadvance.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.